Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar. We hope you're all well and safe. We'll soon be starting, just waiting a few seconds to get everyone connected. In the meantime, I invite you to use the chat box on the right side of your screen just to let me know if you can hear me well and see the screen, and then we'll be ready to start. Thanks. All right, it seems to be okay. So thanks again for joining us today for this webinar. I'm Anthony from the marketing team at Valentis in France, and I will be walking through this introduction and also moderating the webinar on the chat box. Just some quick details before going further. So during the presentation, you will be all in mute mode, which means you can't talk to us, but you can interact with us using the chat box. And I definitely encourage you to use the chat box because there will be a Q&A session at the end for the presentation. So feel free to leave comments and questions. We'll do our best to answer a maximum of questions at the end of the presentation. But of course, if we don't have the time or if we don't have the answer at the moment, no worries, we'll get back to you after the webinar. I would like also to mention that this session is recorded, so you will be able to watch it on demand using the link you will receive later, and that you can forward this link to your colleagues. And today we've come here to talk about the latest Atlassian announcement about changes on their server, data center, and cloud product lines. And with me today, our CTO, Chantrenne, who will present these changes in detail, the solutions available for you, and we will attempt to answer all of your questions about this topic. Over to you, Nathan.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Anthony. So my name is Nathan. I'm the CTO here at Valentis. And today we're going to talk about that major announcement for server and data center. The goal being to help you get prepared for those changes. So I've been working with Valentis for almost 9 years now. Time goes by. And even before that, I was already working with Atlassian tools in my previous company. So it's been in total a bit more than 10 years that I've used Atlassian products. And I'm sure some of you, for some of you, it's the case as well. And I can say that this is probably the biggest change to the Atlassian ecosystem that happened in that period. So some of you might be worried about this change. The goal today is to clarify it, clarify all those news, all those changes as much as we can. It's our job as an Atlassian partner to help you understand and get the most out of your Atlassian products today and once all those changes are rolled out as well. So let's take a look at today's agenda. We'll first go through why these changes and why now as well. Then we'll see what is changing in details with the timeline. Then we'll go through some decision trees that we've been building recently in order to help you see what the options are moving forward. We'll have one summary of all the resources that you can use in order to help you decide and take action. And we'll end the session here with probably quite a big Q&A session because I'm sure you're prepared a lot of questions. Okay, let's go. So why is this happening? And also why is it happening now? Basically, to sum it up, all these changes have been introduced to accelerate the journey to the cloud. Atlassian's strategy has been for a long time focused towards the cloud starting in 2012 with the launch of the cloud version, and 2017 with that new cloud platform that was released. In 2018, Atlassian Access for single sign-on and user management was released. Last year, we had the Cloud Premium. And finally, this year, the Cloud Enterprise was actually just released. And I talk a bit more details about this edition right after. So Atlassian has been and will continue to be investing a lot in cloud. So even though that news may have been a bit surprising, it's definitely no surprise knowing where Atlassian comes from and what their objectives are and how they've been announced in all their communications recently, including the last Atlassian Summit. So the goal, Atlassian's goal is to deliver the best Atlassian experience for all of you. So the objective is to drive more innovation from your teams and make your teams more agile. And so the only way they can do that efficiently enough is by focusing their effort on a platform that allows for them to be as agile and as innovative as they want you to be. And so this is the cloud platform, because on the cloud, it's very flexible for you, it's very scalable, and it's also easy for Atlassian to roll out new features and collect feedback as to how the platforms are being used. And the journey doesn't end there. Definitely, Atlassian has a very large roadmap that they're publishing, and it's quite news as well, because Atlassian never published any roadmap for a very, very long time, and they just recently did that. So I definitely encourage you to go to Atlassian website and have a glance at that roadmap, which contains all the things that they're going to implement in the near and the longer term future. We'll share the link with you as part of the materials of this session. A few other things that can help you understand why they're changing what they're changing. The first thing is that 95% of new customers start in the cloud today. That's just a massive number. And if you were Atlassian, you would probably want to focus on 95% of your customers, right? Also, Atlassian has seen, and Valiantis as well, a 100% increase in migrations from server or data center to the cloud only in the past year, and that's going to continue. So they just want to invest more in cloud and focus their investment to provide you with that better experience. Now, let's go through what is changing in more details. So there are three areas where there are changes. The first one is on the cloud. Second one is with the server end of sales. And finally, data center changes. So let's start with the cloud. I said earlier that they just introduced that enterprise cloud edition. It comes right after Premium here, and it's not only a small addition to their cloud family, it goes way beyond that. Only the first feature there is just massive in terms of potential for you. You have the ability with the enterprise cloud to launch as many instances within that cloud as you want. If you want to, if you have 1,000 Jira Software user, for example, you can spin up 10 separate Jira Software instances, as long as you do not cross that 1,000 users tier. So this leaves you with a lot more flexibility than you used to have with other cloud editions. And if you had to do something similar on server or on data center, the infrastructure cost would have been really prohibiting you from doing that efficiently. The enterprise cloud also has a 99.95 SLA, which is very good. You also have on enterprise cloud the ability to choose where your data is going to be located. At the moment, they only offer Europe and USA as locations, but they definitely are going to increase that list in the near future. Atlassian Access, which is the single sign-on product available for the cloud, is included in that enterprise cloud version. It leaves you with a lot more flexibility to manage your users. And this is especially important if you have a large number of instances within your enterprise cloud, as you'll want to manage all these instances from a single place. Now let's move on to the server changes. So server is not going to be sold anymore. We can't really talk of end of life because all of you who have bought server licenses, you've bought perpetual licenses, which means you can continue to use those licenses forever, basically. However, what Atlassian is going to stop doing is offer maintenance on server. And maintenance contains bugs on the application, but also security and platform compatibility fixes. So the first milestone here is February 2nd, 2021. On this date, Atlassian is going to stop selling new server licenses. You're not going to be able to buy new server licenses after that date. They're also going to increase pricing for around 15%. It varies depending on the product and the user tier that you're on. So they're going to increase that pricing for renewals and upgrades of your server licenses. After February 2nd, 2022, you're not going to be able to upgrade or downgrade your server license. This is a very important information, and we'll cover that in more details later on in this presentation. On the 2nd of February 2023, no more new apps. So if you want to acquire a new app, you must absolutely do it before that date. And finally, in 2024, so a little more than 3 years from now, the server product is not going to be supported anymore. And another very important information here is that between 2021 and 2022, Atlassian is going to continue providing and releasing new server versions for all their products. These versions are going to fix security vulnerabilities, but also provide some minor improvements and especially platform compatibility. For example, with the latest database versions or the latest Java versions. After February 2nd, 2022, and up to February 2nd, 2024, they will stop doing that. During that period, they will only be releasing patches for critical security vulnerabilities and nothing else than that. So that's also something you might want to take into account. Finally, this server end of sales includes all the Atlassian products except for Fisheye and Crucible. These products have been in a low maintenance mode for a few years already, and they'll continue to be like that. There's no plan for Fisheye and Crucible after before 2024. Now, for data center, the first date remains the same. So on February 2nd, 2021, the pricing for data center products is going to increase from 15 to 140%. So of course, that's going to vary quite a lot based on the products and on the user tiers that you have internally. Another important information is that some of the most popular Atlassian apps are going to be bundled within those products. So let's take an example. If you buy a Jira Software product after this date, or renew your Jira Software maintenance after this date on Data Center, you'll have the advanced roadmaps, which was formerly known as Portfolio for Jira, for free. It's going to be included. For Jira Service Desk, they will include Insight for Jira and Insight Discovery, who were recently acquired by Atlassian, those Mindville products. And in Confluence, they're going to include team calendars and analytics for Jira for free. So if you had those products already, this means that you're going to save up a bit on your renewal, because you won't have to renew those anymore. And if you didn't have those, you'll get them for free. They're also going to include Atlassian Priority Support. So Atlassian Priority Support is the ability to get your tickets handled as a priority. And this is going to be included for any new data center or renewal for any product, except for Bitbucket under 500 users. The other important news is that Bamboo server is going to disappear at some point, but it can't disappear before the data center version of Bamboo is out. So Atlassian is actively working on releasing Bamboo Data Center, but we don't have a release date ready for now. So to sum it up, we have this overall timeline summarizing all the changes that are going to happen soon. So the most important milestone is definitely February 2nd, 2021. After that, there are a lot of other changes that you'll need to navigate through, and will help you do that. I want to take some time to focus on the pricing, because we're talking of some pricing updates, some pricing increase, but Atlassian is also putting in place some programs in order for you to transition to cloud or data center in an easier fashion. So there are 3 programs that I'd like to talk to you about today. The first one is the loyalty discount, second one, dual licensing, and finally, the multi-year contracts. So the loyalty discount is a multi-year discount from 1 to 3 years that you can get if you're a server client and you're purchasing data center, or if you're server or data center client and you're purchasing a cloud license. So if you're buying a new cloud license, you can get 55% of the first year for your cloud license, 40% the second year, and 20% on the third year. For data center, you can have 40% on the first year, 30% on the second year, and 15% on the third year. So this is definitely something you'd want to leverage in order to save for those migrations that you'll have to do. Another thing is the dual licensing. Dual licensing enables you to take it a little bit slower in terms of cloud migration. So let's say you want to migrate your instance to the cloud. You might want to create that cloud instance and migrate your projects one by one over time as soon as they're ready. And dual licensing enables you to do that, because once you purchase that cloud license, you have a free 1-year license for server or data center that enables you to just do that migration, and you pay only for one of the 2 platforms that you're using while you're doing that migration. Finally, multi-year contract is basically a 3-year all upfront deal that you do with Atlassian in order to lock your pricing. But it's available only if you have more than 5,000 users. All of this is quite complex. I'm sure you better understand it now, but it has a lot of intricacies that might be a bit difficult to navigate through. So come talk to Valiantis if you want help understanding all of that or getting the right quote for the right platform. we'll take now some time to go through the options. So one thing that is very important, even though I talked a lot about cloud during the introduction, and it's definitely where Atlassian and Valiantis wants you to go at some point, cloud is not going to be an option for some companies. In some companies, it may never be an option at all. So these companies, they will have to use data center when server is not available anymore. For some other companies, cloud is just not an option right now because they're missing a critical feature or a critical non-functional requirement. So what they can do is wait for that feature to be available, and they have more than 3 years to do that. So let's see through a few decision trees what you actually need to do and when, and what type of platform might actually be the right choice for you. So here's a short decision tree of what you may want to do before February 2nd, 2021, which is our first major milestone. The first thing you'll have to do is assess your situation. Some of you might be in a difficult or complex situation. So Valiantis is definitely there to help you understand and check all the options available. So don't hesitate to ask for our help. Then the first question you have to ask yourself is, do you have any server or data center license already? If you don't, do you want to acquire a new server or data center license? Well, acquiring a new server license now would be a bit strange, but in some cases it might make sense, because if the cloud isn't ready for you now, it might be ready in 2 years, but you might want to start your project right now and not wait for Atlassian Cloud to be ready. So if you want to do that, it's definitely encouraged that you purchase your licenses before that date in order to benefit from the current pricing. If you don't want to acquire any new server or data center license, that means you're already using Atlassian Cloud, and this change does not impact you at all. Now, if you have server or data center licenses, there's two options. Either your renewal is before February 2nd next year, or it's after. So if it's before that date, you'll have to ask for a quote to renew your licenses, and you can renew for 1, 2, or even 3 years if you have more than 5,000 users. And you'll have to proceed with payment before your quote expires. The other option for you is to not renew the licenses, because as I said, your server licenses are perpetual. So they will continue to function, to work, even if they're expired. That's definitely something I and Valiantis won't recommend, however, because it means you would be out of support. So in case you have a software bug, or if you have a critical security vulnerability that you're unable to patch, I think you would be in a worse situation that if you would have spent a little bit more in your licenses a few months earlier. So definitely not recommended. Now, if your renewal is after February 2nd, 2021, you can anticipate and renew early your server or data center product. So now what happens after February 2nd, 2021 and up to February 2nd, 2022? The first important thing, and I've mentioned that when we reviewed the server changes timeline, after February 2nd, 2022, you're not going to be able to upgrade your server license. So if you have a server license right now and you want to continue using it beyond 2022, you'll need to make sure that you have the right user tier to do that. If your platform is growing, you'll have to anticipate how many users you might need, because after that date, you're not going to be able to upgrade your license. So you would need to switch to data center or cloud and do that very quickly, which would not be very efficient. But the other option, as I said, is for you to migrate to data center. So when I say migrate to data center, you first need to migrate your licenses to data center, and that includes marketplace apps on data center. And what about your infrastructure? So for infrastructure, you have two options. One is the cost optimized option. The other is the value optimized option. So for the cost optimized option, you can keep your existing infrastructure as is. So you just apply your data center licenses on your server instance, and it will work the same way it used to work. It will unlock a few features that exist only on data center, like the issue archiving, for example, but you won't have to change anything in terms of infrastructure if you're not ready to do so. If you're ready to do so, you can migrate to a high availability architecture and then benefit from all the added value that data center brings in terms of performance. Other option is for you to migrate to the cloud. And of course, you can switch from data center to the cloud at some point if and when you're ready. But can you actually migrate to Atlassian Cloud? Is your instance Atlassian Cloud ready? Well, it's not necessarily something you can know right away. Atlassian Cloud and data center or even server are different products, and they have different sets, different capabilities. Not all the apps are available on the cloud. Some apps are available, but with a different scope than on server or data center, which makes that analysis a bit tricky. So Valiantis can definitely help you in this. If Atlassian Cloud is not ready for you, but you may still want to get rid of your current infrastructure, we have the Valiantis Cloud option, which is available and which would require you to migrate to data center licenses and then to the Valiantis Cloud. And then later, once Atlassian Cloud is ready, you can migrate to the Atlassian Cloud. So you could use Valiantis Cloud as a stepping stone to Atlassian Cloud. Finally, after February 2nd, 2022, in any case, you'll have to plan for your migration. You have 2 years left to find which of data center or cloud is the best option for you, and plan your migration and execute your migration. Out of all these options, you might want to explore a few of them and see the cost implications. This is another area where Valiantis can help you, because this is all quite complex, and we're here to help you with that. So now, how do you find out which option is best? So let's go for another decision tree. I'll zoom in a little on this one, don't worry. So the objective here is through a simple set of questions for you to define which platform probably suits your needs best. So let's begin with the first 3 strong criteria that could rule out Atlassian Cloud entirely for now. And I insist on for now because I said it earlier, Atlassian is focusing all their investment, or almost all their investment, on Atlassian Cloud. And if something is not available today, it might be available next month or next year. And it's very important for you to continue monitoring what's released on the cloud in order for you to get ready once it's there. So 3 criteria that can rule out Atlassian Cloud at the moment are: the first one is a specific security framework. So HIPAA, for example, for patient health information in the US. There are other frameworks that Atlassian don't support for now. So that would rule out Atlassian Cloud for now. And then if you have more than 20,000 users, Atlassian Cloud is not ready for you yet. It will be at some point, but not now. Then, if you want to migrate your instance very, very quickly, for example, because your current license ends in a few months, well, under 3 months, for some complex instances, it's very very hard to migrate to the cloud. So we can rule out that option as well. So now, second part of the graph, if you look at the right side, do you have skills, time, and infrastructure available for a data center instance? If you do, it's still interesting to look at Valiantis Cloud. Can we provide a better TCO or ROI for your instance? TCO, it might not be the case, but the return on investment can actually be better with Valiantis Cloud because it enables you to focus on your core business and to repurpose your resources on your core business. But if it doesn't, the only option you have left is to use data center on your own infrastructure or on an existing cloud provider like AWS or Microsoft Azure. If Valiantis Cloud is an option, of course, you'll have to go through a security validation to make sure we cover everything that's needed for you to feel confident about your data security on our cloud. Now, if you go back to the left of that graph, Atlassian Cloud has a different set of features, as I mentioned already. So you'll have to make sure that all the features that you want are accessible on Atlassian Cloud. Or if it doesn't, are you willing to reduce your functional scope? If you are, then you'll have to make a choice between standard or premium cloud, and you have to validate the security for premium or standard cloud. The choice between standard and premium cloud will be driven by mostly functional and non-functional requirements like SLAs or functional capabilities that are available on premium cloud. Then the last remaining option is enterprise cloud. So you'll have to see in terms of functional and non-functional requirements, again, is enterprise cloud covering what you need or not? If it doesn't, you'll fall back to that data center options we covered already. And if it does, you'll have to go through security check again. And with that decision tree, we've covered all the options that you have at the moment, but keep in mind that everything I'm saying right now is probably going to be expired in a few months because changes are coming very, very fast in the ecosystem. So we'll make sure we update that and make sure also you stay alerted on all the changes that happens in the ecosystem. One thing is you mustn't forget that you have time, and at any point in time you can switch from one option to another. If your requirements changed or if the platform changed and better matches what you need at some point. So it's better to take your time to take the right decision rather than rushing on one of the options and find out later that it was the wrong move. Okay, in terms of available resources, we have a few links that we'll share with you. All this list will be shared with you, but the first resource is not a link, it's a person. You can, and I definitely encourage you to go talk to your Valiantis account manager. We spent a lot of time training our staff to all these changes in a very, very short period of time to make sure they have answers to all of your questions. It's very complex. You've seen it. I've said it a couple of times already. So feel free to go talk to your account manager and they'll help you find the right path for success for your instance. We've also released a blog article earlier this week that you can go through. It contains a lot more details about all I've discussed about today. We are sharing here a lot of links from Atlassian's documentation and website. They cover all the changes in extensive details, plus all the new pricing that will be effective starting February 2nd, 2021. I've also shared the link here of the roadmaps for the cloud and the data center that I've mentioned a few times as well. Finally, we've written an ebook recently, which covers 12 tips for a successful migration to the Atlassian cloud. I think it's very it's a very interesting read at the moment. And I'm done with that presentation. I think we can move on to the Q&A session now.
Great, thanks Nathan for this presentation. So again, we'll start the Q&A session, but I would like to mention that the session has been recorded. You will receive a link later to watch it again on demand or share it with colleagues. And we will share all the details, the resources, the links from this presentation. So we have 10 minutes ahead of us to do the Q&A session. If there is a lot of questions, we'll take a bit more time. And again, if we don't answer you today, no worries, we'll get back to you after the webinar. So let's start with a first question from Dave. Is there any solution for projects that can't use the cloud because of higher classification, but only need up to 50 users?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And it's actually a concern that has been raised a lot already by the community. So far, Atlassian only provides a data center starting 500 users. So they know that at the moment they're going to remove the ability for all the clients under that limit that can't go to the cloud to actually continue using their product. So what they're currently doing is they want to collect as much feedback as possible as to why those clients can't really go to the cloud. So here I'm hearing about confidential information, but a lot of Atlassian clients are already storing confidential information on Atlassian Cloud. So we might want to spend a bit more time seeing exactly what kind of information is held in there and if we can't find a solution. So that's the way Atlassian is handling the situation right now. It might evolve and might change in the future, but for now, data center is 500 users. So I would say for this case is that they should continue using server for as long as possible and hoping that another solution is going to come up before the end of server in 2024.
Great, thanks Nathan. Next one from Benjamin. What is the difference between cloud and data center? Where is data center hosted?
Okay, so I'm not going to be able to cover all the differences between data center and cloud today. I told earlier that these were different products, so they have different sets of capabilities. We can share some links with you that cover all the differences feature per feature. They are extensively documented on Atlassian documentation. I would say the major changes are around the apps that are available on data center or on cloud. There are a lot of apps that are not cloud compatible yet, and even those that are compatible do not necessarily share the same scope. So this means they may have less features available. So that's probably the most disturbing thing at the moment between data center and cloud, but there are a lot of other differences between the two platforms. I can't cover them all today. And sorry, I forgot the second part of the question. Could you ask that again, please?
The second part was, where is the data center hosted?
Yeah, so the data centers for Atlassian Cloud, so they're using AWS and they're using some regions in Europe, so Dublin in Ireland plus Frankfurt in Germany, and they're also using some data centers in the US. So if you have enterprise cloud, you're able to select exactly where your data is going to be held. But if you have standard, free, or premium, you're not going to be able to choose for now. So your data is probably going to land where most of your users are, and you can't really control that.
Great, thanks Nathan. One question, I think you mentioned it during the presentation, but maybe it's worth it to talk about it again. A question from Manisha. In case the company is not able to migrate all server licenses by 2024, what happened to those licenses after 2024?
Yeah, so I covered it indeed, but to make it more clear, your server products are going to continue working beyond 2024 because you have perpetual licenses. However, if you face any bug or any security vulnerability, no one's going to save you. So I would say that if you have absolutely no other choice, you can do that, but you're taking quite a risk to do so. I think in more than 3 years, you have plenty of time to think of all the options available. But if you don't think that's the case, we can definitely spend some time discussing that with you to better understand your context.
Great, thanks, Nathan. Let's continue with one comment that is concerning some of the attendees of this session, like Fabrice, who's asking us, after 2024, do you think that Atlassian could also announce the end of data center solution?
Yeah, that's a very valid concern. And if I were you, I would definitely be worried about that. But on the other side, we're discussing a lot with Atlassian, and they've reassured us as well as their clients a lot around this recently. So even though I talked a lot about cloud, I also recognize that there are clients that are never going to be able to go to the cloud for regulatory reasons or some other reasons. Well, so in any case, there will still be a small portion of clients that are never going to be able to go to the cloud. Atlassian recognizes that, and they don't have any plan at all to discontinue that option. They want to continue serve and have an option available for those clients that can only run behind the firewall. And I think they've made it very clear. If you go to the Atlassian website on the roadmap page, you'll see that there's a roadmap for Atlassian Data Center that goes beyond the next 3 years. So there's no plan at the moment to discontinue data center. And I think you're good to go to invest on data center right now. It's not going to end.
Great, thanks. We have an interesting question from Rob. Actually, it's two questions. I'm not sure you will be able to answer the first one, but maybe you have a take on this. And the second one is interesting. So let me tell you what is it. Rob is asking what will happen to the small app developers that have been putting time and effort into developing solutions that are compatible with server now that the server is going to end. And also, what will happen to Valiantis as a managed services provider?
So for the first question, I think the safest move for those app vendors would be to switch their apps to data center or to the cloud. That would require some time. I can understand that, but there's just no other option, and there's nothing we can do at Valiantis to change that, definitely. So for the second question, the Valiantis cloud option, as I mentioned in my decision trees, there is still going to be an option for some very specific cases. And even beyond 2024, I think there will continue to be some clients that require some very specific things that can't be offered by the cloud, and they will not necessarily want to host the instances themselves because they don't have the time, the skills, or anything else. So the Valiantis cloud strategy is to serve those clients. For example, we've started working on HIPAA compliance, and we should be compliant before the end of this year in order to differentiate from Atlassian Cloud at the moment. In order for the clients to have an option right now, if they want HIPAA compliance, and in a few years when Atlassian Cloud is ready to switch over those clients to Atlassian Cloud. So Advalyantis Cloud is not going to stop right away. We'll have to adapt our strategy, but that's normal. And I think it's going to continue to operate for at least a small portion of clients that have very particular requirements.
Great, thanks, Nathan. And so we are coming to the end of the webinar, but since there is a lot of questions and we can take some more time, we'll continue the Q&A session. Again, we do our best to answer all of you, but if we don't have the time, we'll get back to you after the webinar and we will share everything, recording, slides, resources. So do not worry about that. And actually, I have an additional question from Rob, who's wondering what's the benefit of spinning up large numbers of instances of Jira and Confluence, for example, instead of having all users on the same one instance?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the first benefit is that some configuration in Jira are just general to the instance. So this means that if you change that configuration, it could affect all the projects within that instance. So that's one thing. And another thing is apps. And I'm sure a lot of you experienced that in the past already. If you want to purchase an app, even though it's going to be used by a single team inside the company, you have to buy that app for your entire user base. If you're spinning multiple instances, you have the ability to acquire that app for only that specific instance, which makes it a lot more cost effective. So these are the two things that come to mind very easily, but there are also a lot of other less critical factors that goes in that direction. Of course, there are also advantages of running a single instance, but it depends on all the cases.
Thanks, Nathan. So let's continue. We have one question from Lamar, who says that there is a lot of restrictions in the Atlassian cloud regarding the marketplace apps, and this has been a concern. And he was wondering if is there any details on the Atlassian roadmap about this?
Yes, so if you go to the cloud roadmap page that we're going to share, you'll see some information regarding the apps. One thing especially is that Atlassian is going to release a new app framework for app vendors to work with. And that app framework is going to provide more capabilities for apps to work on the cloud. It will actually solve two problems at once. The first being data locality. At the moment, the app providers are able to store their data wherever they want. So with that new app framework, the data is going to be stored in the same place the instance is stored. And that framework is going to enable a lot more features that are currently not available with the current framework. So this framework is going to be released before the end of the year. And of course, the app vendors are going to require some time to adapt to it, but I'm sure they will be able to tackle that quite quickly. And the gap between cloud and server apps is going to close quickly as well. Another important thing is that there are also apps that are available only on the cloud and not on server. And sometimes you can also find replacements to apps that you were using on server or data center. And that doesn't exist in cloud, but there's a different product out there that just does the same thing or a bit different, but still manageable.
Thanks, Nathan. Let's continue at least for 5 to 10 minutes. We have one question, about the dual licensing. Does it apply to migrating from server to data center or only from server to cloud?
No, so the dual licensing applies only for migration to data center, not from server to data center. the migration from server to data center is a bit easier because, as I said, it could be a two-step process where you just apply the data center licenses to your server instance and it continues to work as it used to be. So you don't really have to handle a full data migration. It's just a license migration, and you can tackle the infrastructure changes a bit later once you're ready.
Great, thanks. We have one question from Santiago. It might be a bit specific, but he's asking, actually, he's explaining that his organization is using a lot Elements Connect for integration between Jira and their web services. Do you know if this feature is available in cloud with Elements Connect?
So that's a good question, but my colleagues from Elements would probably be best placed to answer. I don't have all the information regarding their roadmap at the moment. But what I can say is that they released Elements Connect quite recently, and they're investing a lot to improve its capabilities. So I'm sure their plan is to bring all the server or data center capabilities on the cloud version, but I can't really say right now what's the priority for this specific feature. So we'll definitely revert to you about that question after we've discussed with the team here.
Thanks. Let's continue. So there is a lot of questions, so I'm trying to find the next one. Maybe this one from Mark. Nathan, do you know if there is any tips for those of us that are on community licenses?
So for community licenses, there are specific rules that apply. So let me search for them. Yeah, so for community licenses, there's a community cloud subscription that is available, which is documented on Atlassian's website. We will share the link with you directly because I don't have all the details right in front of me at the moment. But there's a plan for community licenses. However, it's only on the cloud and not on server or data center.
Great, thanks, Nathan. We'll take some more questions, maybe one or two before closing the webinar. And we have one question from Anya, who's asking if she can have a mix of DC and server, especially having Service Desk on data center and Confluence on server.
So yes, you can work in a hybrid mode like that, having some products on data center and some others on the cloud. At the moment, at the very moment I'm speaking now, not all the integrations are available. So it's the case for Jira Service Desk plus Confluence. It doesn't fully work as I talk, but what Atlassian is saying is that they want to invest in that and making sure they bridge the gap to enable companies to work in this mode. So at the moment, I know they're extensively working on Bitbucket data center integration with Jira Cloud, Jira software on the cloud. So we'll definitely bring that feedback up to Atlassian to see what are their plans in details around Jira Service Desk versus Confluence integration. But I would say that it's part of their plans. Now it's just a matter of finding when it's going to be available exactly.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. So we'll take one last question. Maybe this one from Ruud. So he's asking what's the difference in terms of cloud security between Atlassian hosted and Valiantis. So I guess Valiantis managed services. Is it software as a service, or is it data center hosted on AWS, Azure, and maintained by Valiantis?
Yeah, so Valiantis Cloud is not a SaaS product per se. It's a data center license that we install on a data center product with a the right architecture on AWS, or we also have a French-based provider if needed. So this is a data center product, but we are fully managing it. So from the customer standpoint, they only have access to the product, the application, and we can take care of all the rest. So it's exactly like a SaaS product from their standpoint, and we take care of incidents, security, and so on. Now, in terms of security, we are ISO 27001 and ISO 9001 compliant. And as I said, we're also working on getting HIPAA compliance before the end of this year. And Atlassian has a lot more certifications available, like SOC 2 compliance, FedRAMP. I know they're working on it. So we'll have to take a closer look at what do you need in terms of security to see if that would be an option for you. But we're definitely investing at Valiantis in terms of security. However, Atlassian is doing also the same. So I wouldn't say that security shouldn't be the main driver for you to select your solution. It would rather be what kind of features and what kind of non-functional requirements do you have, and what would be the solution that covers this best now and in the future, because that can also change over time.
Great, thanks Nathan. So we are coming to the end of this webinar. I'd like to thank you again, Nathan, for the presentation and all your answers. Again, we'll share everything from the recording to the slides and the resources from Atlassian or Valiantis. So no worries about that. You should receive everything beginning of next week. And I would like to thank everyone who joined the session. We hope we help you clarify a bit the needs and your projects around this major announcement from Atlassian. And feel free to get in touch with us if you have any concerns or questions for the future.
Thanks a lot.
Have a nice weekend ahead, and you too, Nathan. See you later.
Bye.